You're listening to The Paul Higgins Show, where ambitious tech consultants come to unlock their potential. After 18 years as a global leader, I launched several businesses, culminating in a successful exit. I'm sharing what I learned, plus what's working now from mentoring tech consultants. You will hear leaders within our industry to help you build a business you love that allows you to do what you want. If you are looking for immediate cash flow wins to fuel your growth, go to our free ebook at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap. You have one SaaS partner and you're thinking about taking on another. Hi, I'm Paul Higgins, and welcome to the Paul Higgins Show, episode 555. In this podcast, I talked to Jamie Smit from Amplify Advisors about emerging ERPs and how she went from 1 to 2. If you'd like to see Jamie and I on YouTube, just go to Paul Higgins Mentoring. Jamie is the co-founder of Amplify Advisors, which focuses on financial strategy for growing businesses, and she defines that in the podcast. As the Chief Experience Officer, she leads the client experience and reinforces the values and the purpose of Amplify, which she has 5 values that she talks about. She runs communications, marketing, brand, employee experience, the CFO team, financial leader services, recruiting services, and all areas of experience. So she's busy. Jamie also knew she wanted it all: a husband, kids, and an important job. Her biggest lesson to date was learning you can have it all, but you can't do it all yourself. I think that's a brilliant quote. She surrounded herself with an epic team and family and friends to keep the dream alive. Now, hand you over to Jamie from amplifyadvisors.ca. Great to have you here, Jamie.
It's awesome to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to, as we said in the prepping for the interview, is there's not many people that are a NetSuite plus something else partner, so broader ERP. So I'm really looking to dig into that in a moment. But the thing I'd love to know straight up is who are your ideal clients and what problems do you solve for them?
Our ideal client is a growth business. And so we work with growth businesses across all 3 of our service lines, helping them become profitable and scale up. We certainly are able to serve pre-revenue clients and clients that are brand new and startups, but generally speaking, they're not ready to invest in financial strategy and have a finance leader and ERP. So we find that the best clients, ideal, but we're talking very ideal, is when they're actually 1 to 5 million, because they haven't created a mess and we don't have to go in there as the CFO or the controller and clean all of the books and records, and we don't have to take their data and clean it up and sort it out and fix the processes before we put them into an ERP. Now, the reality is most clients aren't investing in financial leadership or ERPs as early as 1 to 5 million, but that's like my dream state.
Yes.
The reality is 12 million or so people invest in the people side of financial strategy, and it's usually closer to 20 million that they're going to take the time to go from a QuickBooks Zero to an emerging ERP. We definitely are helping people at the larger end, but if you get in early, it's way more cost effective, takes less time, and there's less change management and cleanup that's not really value add. So it's an amazing opportunity in those times when people are willing to invest early.
Yeah, great. Based on that, like how many times have people already got NetSuite or Acumatica before you go in there?
Most of the clients that we work with are not on an ERP yet. And so when we get there, either in our financial leadership role or in an ERP setting, they're usually coming off of a QuickBooks or Xero. There are cases where they're coming off of legacy systems. And certainly we do rescue clients, as we call it, where somebody screwed up the implementation, we have to fix it.
Yes.
But the vast majority of our clients are scaling up. And so they're coming off of that general ledger system and that plug and play tech stack and moving to that next level.
It's fair to say that most of your revenue to begin with clients is consulting based or financial service based, and then you move into the ERP as you've sort of built the process, then you bring in the technology. Is that sort of how it typically flows?
From an ideal client roadmap perspective, when everything is going exactly how we'd love to do it and provide value through the lifetime of a client, we would really get on in early stages and often be a finance leader at a business coaching level. And then as they grow, we would take on the full seat of CFO and become their fractional CFO and start building out the processes, the team, and the automation of that finance and accounting function while sitting on the executive and truly showing up as a business leader first, and then
Yes.
the finance and accounting executive second. And so from there, we're going to build up that team. And then we're going to start looking at putting them on the right tech. And a lot of times we actually start by putting them on a tech stack that goes with the general ledger system, like a QuickBooks or a Xero, before we actually graduate them to an emerging ERP so that we can get those processes and frankly, that they can be at a level of revenue and capacity that they're ready. It's also great to see them have good process, good data, and then move to an emerging ERP. And around that same time, usually we're looking at replacing ourselves and recruiting permanent CFOs, permanent controllers, and building them a team that they can now afford because they've grown to a point where they can afford to have that full-time employee. And frankly, we're becoming too expensive for
Yes.
them because they need us 3-5 days a week. And that doesn't make sense at a fractional level and a fractional pricing point.
Yeah, great. And is there any particular industries that you focus on?
We're industry agnostic here, really focused on growth businesses. So what we find is that when it comes to accounting and finance, there's a lot more similar than different. And the types of people that I hire really have a growth mindset and are really excited to try different industries and learn. So they hit the ground running, and where they're weak or have gaps to begin with, they make up for it super fast because they're really passionate and excited to learn new industries. So
Yes.
by and large, we believe our people, we hire them at a level that they can hit the ground running and learn what they need to learn to be effective in any industry. With the ERPs, there's certainly some industries that NetSuite is fantastic for and Acumatica is fantastic for. So we wouldn't at any point say that both ERPs are great for all industries. That's not true when it comes to the technology.
Yes.
But between the two systems, every industry can be covered for sure.
Yeah, great. And how do you assess whether someone's growth? Well, like what's growth mean to you?
Most of the time, growth, when we get in, it really is going from a point of continuously focused on revenue and still growing revenue, and sales is a big thing. In addition, financing is a big thing. So they're looking to bring in debt or equity and have more capacity to fund more opportunities. And for the first time ever, they're really caring about profit. So generally speaking, before we get in there, they haven't had an opportunity to worry about profit because they're way too top line focused and working on their op model and just making sure that it made sense and that they were really solving problems for clients or customers, right?
Yes.
Or providing a quality product if they're a product versus a service. They're really looking at profit for the first time while still caring about growth on the top line and then needing the financing to keep it all going and have new regions, new products, new services, new departments, synergies. That's kind of what defines growth. Where we're not a good fit is a lifestyle business, which that's awesome, but they don't need us, that's for sure. And
Yes.
then exiting businesses where it's about retirement and family office and second generation, that's not necessarily where we shine unless that's aligned with growth and that they're actually looking to grow along with that exit as opposed to just let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I was talking to a client the other day where the trend is that's going to be more so because the millennials are coming in to run the businesses that the Gen X and above have sort of run in the past. So I think will be a different, well, maybe more conducive to technology as that sort of change occurs. Or you can be like me, who's a Gen X that loves technology. But anyway, the you talked about service versus product. What's sort of the mix in your clients if you took a top line view, how much is services versus how much are product based?
Because we're here in Alberta, Canada, it is very diverse, the industries, but certainly there's a lot of energy industry, like energy related companies. So
Yeah.
alternative energy is something that we see a lot of. We're definitely working with many variations of alternative energies. And then energy services that serve the oil and gas industry is still a big thing where I'm living. Energy industry is still some relation or tie back to that industry would be the most prominent in our portfolio, but it's far more diverse than people expect when they're looking at Alberta or a Calgary company.
And how do you source these growth companies? What's been your best lead source?
So we're about just over 5 years old, and we remain 95% referral based. Very grateful for the network that trusts us and introduces us and hires us. It's awesome to be a referral based business for the obvious reasons, because you gained that trust and built that brand. But we are certainly looking to grow and have that stay stable and keep that be consistent and growing. But in addition, find some what I like to call new eyeballs and have people be introduced to us in new ways besides just referrals, because obviously no matter how big your network is and how exciting it is and supportive, there is a limit when you're just a referral based business. So that's a spot that we're in right now, is trying to break that ceiling of just relying on referrals. But to date, it has been 95% referral, and no matter how big the pie gets, it always stays at 95%. And so that other 5% in whole dollars and whole number of clients has grown a lot over the last few years, but not as a percentage of the pie.
Yeah, and of the referrals that you get, how much are from your platform partners versus how much are from, outside of that?
Almost all of our referrals are actually coming from CPAs. And so we are also a CPA firm. My founder and I are both CPAs. We grew up in the big four. If we think about the big six here in Canada, which would be the global companies of KPMG, EMY, Deloitte, and PwC, we love them. They taught us everything we know. We wouldn't be who we are without them, and they do feed us a lot of work. And
Yes.
then the smaller firms that are not necessarily global are also of incredible support and just a great place for us to work with. And then in addition, the CPA network that we work within, former employees that we've had or former employee alumni or people that we used to work with, they're really great about sending work. 65% of my revenue comes from CPAs and 35% comes directly from CPA firms.
I think that's, I often say to people, pick the niche or the niche that you have an unfair advantage on. You've got that network advantage, and you really leverage that well. Some of my non-CPA clients that have tried to work with CPAs or accountants, if I take that more generally, sometimes they find it hard to get strategic partnerships because they're quite risk averse, understandably, and don't want to give their client across in case something goes wrong. Because if something goes wrong, then they lose the whole business, right? Any tips or any advice on that? And I don't know if because of your experience, you may not come across that. So it might be a moot question, but if you have come across that, any tips to help people that are non-accountants working with accountants?
To your point, it's exactly that real issue that the other side of the coin is why I benefit, right? And so because myself, my business partner, and so many of my team were trained at those big four, we're trusted, and they're a lot less hesitant to give us work because they know our process, they know
Yes.
our background, and they know where we come from. And so that's exactly what makes us trustworthy and why we can get over that hump of them being risk adverse, because it is true that is CPA. And then that even speaks for Amplify, right? We're a CPA firm with more than half of our staff are CPAs. And we constantly have to educate them on how to refer, how to trust, how to feel good about making those intros without feeling that the risk outweighs the benefit. And so it's a culture thing that I'm always developing here at Amplify. And so what I would say to people that are trying to work with CPAs or other risk adverse professions is that the end of the day, they're stereotypically blue, right? And in this of like analytical, and they like the data. If you're talking to a stereotypical accountant, then you want to be able to show them your process and earn their credibility and earn the trust by actually detailing it out, where they're going to understand what it is you do with their clients and how you get results. And so that they can see that there's a process and there's consistency and there's data. So that would be if you're speaking to a more stereotypical CPA, which to be honest is the least likely to refer. And the only way they're going to refer is if you earn their trust and you build that relationship. And frankly, you also have to ask them. You have to actually ask them, because
Yes.
they don't go around town thinking, oh my God, wouldn't it be great if George met Louise? That's not how they think. But
Yes.
if you ask them, they'll be like, oh my, yeah, I don't know why I didn't think to introduce you to Louise. She would love you. She would love your services. So you have to actually bring it to the table for that type of person. And if you ask, they'll actually try to help, because everybody loves helping, no matter what personality or profession you are, right? People love to help, but sometimes they don't think of it without being asked. And then, of course, if you're not with a stereotypical CPA and they're a bit more people oriented, connector, like a yellow personality, well, then it's really not that much different than any other profession. And certainly, we don't want to put anybody in a box. Like the majority of the CFOs I hire are a lot less stereotypical than a classic CPA. So I wouldn't want anyone to think they should go in a box. But I think those are some things that could help break that barrier for sure.
Yeah, and just on the profiling and the colors, the blue and the yellow. If you just want to go to whatever AI you're using, ChatGPT is the most, and just type in Herman Brain. Herman Brain International. You'll sort of find what the colors mean and what the different personalities mean that Jamie's discussed there. Because I suppose I'm still am accredited in it. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but you can now use ChatGPT to do that. So you talked about the 5%. What are you testing at the moment to nail that 5% of leads that are outside of referrals?
Well, Paul, you've got me on a sensitive week, because I have to admit that I'm testing a lot of things and I'm hitting a lot of KPIs, but I'm not necessarily hitting that last and really the only KPI that matters, which is revenue. And
Yeah.
so it's really an interesting time, because the consultant in me is like, okay, here was the plan, here's the KPIs, and you're on track. So the consultant in me is telling me, you're doing a great job. Everything's going as per plan. All the milestones are being hit. This is awesome. But the business owner and the accountant in me is like, who cares? Where's the revenue? Right?
Yeah.
And it's just so slow that it's frustrating. But what I'm doing and what I'm hoping is patients will prove out that it gets results. What I'm doing is a few things. So we're really starting to look at our marketing in a different way, and trying to look at Google, whether it be SEO and Google Ads, and all of that's brand new to us. We really haven't put any time or effort into that. So putting a lot of focus and getting some experts in to help us, because at the end of the day, my background is a CPA. I'm certainly not an expert in marketing, though I sort of took it in school. Lots of the Google Ads and the SEO. We're consistently pushing people onto our newsletter and on our LinkedIn and our social media. And those have in the past been a really, really great source of awareness, and reminding all those people that refer work to us that we exist, and telling our story and bringing in a community. And so now we're trying to bring these new eyeballs into the community and leverage those assets that have always worked with the community we had, and bringing those new eyeballs into that, and hoping that they have a great experience with our content and our stories, just like our referral base has. And I'm hoping that synergizes, and we end up getting some momentum with that.
Yes.
And then prospecting, we've been prospecting for the first time, like actually doing cold calls and actually reaching out. And that's definitely been a challenge in learning. It's certainly not a great employee experience for those that I'm putting pressure on to do it. And so we've kind of pivoted a bit to get a little bit of outsourcing. And it's been interesting, but we're trying to do it in a warming fashion. And so we don't want to be out there annoying people or spamming people or being sleazy. So we're really trying to we lead with generosity. So, here's some content, here's some tips, here's some things that really do work. You're welcome to go and try it yourself and use the information yourself. But the idea is that a lot of people are running lean and don't have that expertise. They can try it themselves, but maybe they recognize that it's an opportunity to get someone else to help them, which would be us. So those are some of the things we're trying, but it's all really fresh. And if you have any criticism or ideas, I'll take it.
No, look, I think they're definitely the right path. So for me, yes, Google and SEO, I've got some fantastic experts that I normally refer people to, because I'm like you. I actually did accounting and marketing degrees, so I've got both, and that's why I argue with myself all the time. but I think you need to get experts into there. I do think that LinkedIn outreach is better than email, is our personal experience. Because we're large deal sizes, right? And you don't want to spray and pray, like you said. So I think doing it well, and there's, it's all in the messages. Won't go down a rabbit hole again on that, but I can certainly share some resources in our experience because we've been doing it since 2016. So I've built up really, and now all we do it. And when I say we've got some partners that refer, but I sort of do the strategy piece, but that's all we do for tech consultants. So there's definitely is a way to do it. And I can certainly show you the way that's not. But one thing that I think you'd be perfect for it is YouTube. I think, my prediction is that we use AI more and more in our lives. They're going to rely on video. And the video I think they'll source most from is YouTube. So I really do think that getting a presence on YouTube is what some of our clients have seen the best. So I spoke to a Zoho partner this week. He gets 100 leads a month from YouTube, and he converts 25% of those. I do think, it's videos. It's like most things in life. The things that are the hardest are sometimes the best, and YouTube and video is a bit like that. But I think that's probably something I'd add to your list.
Yeah, for sure. And when the Google expert that we're working with, he pushes YouTube and the video side of it most of all, like pretty much
right.
exclusively. So it's been interesting because, to your point, it is like it's a lot easier for me to write a blog while I'm at a baseball game watching an 11-year-old hit a ball. I can't do a video, right? So it is definitely a step up, which we've been working on over the last, I guess, 14, 18 months, adding video, and it's a lot, but I think it is the way of the future, right? People, I think they said 86% of people would rather watch a video than read. That's not a small number.
Yeah, well, look, if you survey one, but two platforms, it's either listen to it on a podcast at 2 times speed, or I watch it on YouTube at 1.5 times speed. That's just the way that I consume my content now. I don't read a lot at all. There's a couple of newsletters that I do read, and I think they're still of value, but even those have video content in them. And there's some tools now like Opus Clip, which we'll put in the show notes. And Opus Clip, can take a 2-minute grab of your video content. Now, most of us think I've got to go and create organic content. Or new content. You've already got heaps of it. Like every time you have a meeting, right, and if you get permission, etc., and you only do your end, you don't have to do the client's end. You've got so much information that's already there, captured, that you can tap into rather than starting the hard bit, which is start from scratch. Okay, do something to cameras. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to do it as well. And like you said, you can send that in outreach as well, send video. But what we'll do is just switch gears a little and talk about the fact that you are multi-ERP. I'd love to know why you're multi-ERP and why did the pick the two that you did, and is there any others that you're looking at the moment to add to the stable?
Yeah, so if we think about Amplify, we started out as a fractional CFO and fractional controller and full outsource of accounting and finance. That's what our first strategic service line was. And we always did recruiting on the side. And then our second strategic service line was recruiting. And in addition, we would do different consulting projects. My business partner and I also did accounting consulting at the Big Four that we were at before we started Amplify. And throughout the history of Amplify, as well as the years that we were in the consulting role, we would do system selections and help companies figure out what technology that they need. And by and large, they were expecting to need an ERP. And what we found over numerous years and numerous projects, that NetSuite was winning quite regularly as the best product and the best option for our client.
Yes.
But here in Western Canada, it wasn't necessarily selected because a lot of people wanted to have an implementer that was local, that was relationship centric, client experience centric, and would really have that give a shit factor with them. And they didn't anticipate that, the big bad Oracle would have that. And certainly when they Googled and saw the results of performance of NetSuite Direct, they were hesitant to sign up with that implementation partner. What we found was like, hey, this is the winning team, this is the winning software, but there's a problem in the market which is that there's no local service provider to implement this software, and therefore clients are picking the second best. So we decided we want to join a winning team and we want to solve a problem in the market. And the winning team was NetSuite, and the problem was there was no local service provider implementing it. That's what brought on Amplify Tech as our third strategic service line, and something that we wanted to do to help our growth businesses because they were ready for ERPs. NetSuite was the best choice, but they didn't have someone to implement. Started the whole department with NetSuite as a NetSuite solutions provider for that reason. And then we grew into having a team and having the processes and the op model of implementing an ERP. And we were finding a new concern in the market, which was that there was times when NetSuite was considered too expensive or too big because of just the way that it's priced and packaged. And people were hesitant to make that investment, even though if you looked at their strategy and their growth and their 10-year forecast, the investment made sense. But because of the short-term cost and commitment, it wasn't necessarily one that they were willing to leap onto. So they were pushing off ERPs or deciding not to go forward with the implementation. And that was disappointing. Or they were picking Acumatica, which has a creative pricing setup that really actually allows a customer to get onto the software at a price point that is often equal or even less than the tech stack that's being replaced. Yes. And so that creative pricing that really targets getting in early and putting an ERP in as an investment foundationally was super exciting to us because we know what a benefit that is to customers. And it solved the problem that was keeping customers from doing that. And so Acumatica has a real focus on client experience and helping businesses as early as they possibly can. And the price structure is creative, most importantly being that it is not based on users. Like another thing, and frankly, we are guilty of this at Amplify too. Jesse and I have every once in a while been like, well, no, we shouldn't buy another license. Like it's too expensive. They barely are going to go in the ERP. And then you end up forwarding Excel spreadsheets to your users because you're too cheap to buy them a license to the ERP. And this is like the most ridiculous, devastating, and common problem that you have a system that has great data and great decision-making and great reporting, and then you're too cheap to give people the access they need. Yes. And Acumatica's pricing cuts that off where all employees can have access and there's no additional cost. And so now you're not running a business with an amazing ERP, but actually running it with spreadsheets, right? Yes, and so that was a huge perk of Acumatica. Pricing, getting in early, the client experience, culture, and they're just so aligned with what we try to do. That was extremely exciting. And then the third reason was that construction is it's so well served by Acumatica. But with NetSuite, sometimes they won't even let us propose on a construction or a construction-like industry because they're just not the best at construction. Where we work in Western Canada, there's lots of construction companies, like classic construction companies, but there's also a lot of companies that from a back office perspective smell and breathe and feel like construction, even though they're not at all a construction industry. So if I think about some of the alt energy companies I mentioned, right now they really are construction when it comes to back office because they're building power generation plants. And for the next 5-10 years, their number one activity is building a power generation plant or what have you. So that smells and feels and breathes and looks like a construction company when it comes to accounting and finance and ERP. Yes. It's not a construction company by vertical and definition. Acumatica can serve that so well. And then when they actually scale to generating power and selling power, well, guess what? Acumatica is still a great fit. Versus for NetSuite, it was struggling because they're not a good fit for construction. And so therefore, it was hard for us to propose. And sometimes we didn't think it was the right thing for the client, so we didn't propose. Other times, NetSuite didn't think it was a winning opportunity, so they would stop us from proposing. And there was just so many in that industry that we weren't able to serve that Acumatica was a great opportunity. So again, a winning team, a problem that wasn't being solved for our clients. We put another ERP on the portfolio.
Right. And is there any third player potentially?
We're not looking at this time at a third player. Obviously, we compete against Microsoft, which is not in no way is a bad ERP. I've implemented Microsoft. It can serve clients well, but to become a Microsoft partner is just not something that we're looking at right now. It's a very complicated and bigger than an ERP. We certainly consider them a reputable competition, but not something that we're expecting to ever sign up for. And then we're not really that interested in the product of Sage or Intact, so we're not looking to partner there, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, what we'll do is just sort of once again switch gears into your team, right? Obviously, you got a team of 45 plus contractors, large team. You talked about the fact that you're very client centric throughout this interview, which is fantastic. Just talk to me a little bit about the values that you have and how they help get the best out of your team.
Here at Amplify, we're big believers in our North Star, which is client experience. And that's different than a classic accounting CPA firm or even tech firm that might be more driven on quality or deadlines or what have you. And certainly those things are important and they're a component of client experience, but we make sure the client experience is number one. And that's really about being relationship centric and putting people first. So that's people before the technology, people before the general ledger and the books and the records. Always reminding our people to put the relationships and people first. At the end of the day, we serve growth businesses and small, medium businesses. All businesses are people centric, but especially small, medium businesses that don't have the automation and don't have the process, like all they have is the people when we get introduced. And so we have to be that much more focused on the people while we help them scale and develop process and technology that they can depend on along with people. Then we are also always looking at aligning with the strategy of the companies. And we want to make sure what's the big picture? What are they trying to do in their community? What are they trying to achieve? And how can we help and bring all our recommendations and all of our, even the controversial conversations back to the strategy and align it with that strategy. And so what I always say to my people, if you're going into a hard chat and you can't explain yourself by aligning to the strategy, you're not ready. Like sharpen your pencil before you go into that conversation, right? And we also integrate and align with and participate with the culture of our client. If they're in person, we're in person. If they're hybrid, we're in person. If they're virtual, we're virtual. And various other things that relate to their cultures. And really, that's part of the fun is getting a chance to be part of those various cultures of various clients. We have 5 values, and the expectation is that our team is excited about them, right? I want people that are inspired to live the values. And if you live the values and you show up living the values, client experience is just a symptom. It's just a symptom of doing that and being really deliberate. So values are something that we use in our marketing, in our recruiting, in our interview process. It's something that we talk about in every meeting. We start every meeting with values. When we're trying to solve a problem, we ask how our values can be a tool, and it's really a cornerstone. So it's more than just words on a wall or a fluffy, intangible concept that nobody really understands. It's something that we're constantly talking about and expecting people to understand, live, and then therefore deliver client experience.
Fantastic. Just a reminder, you're listening to Jamie Smith, and she's from amplifyadvisors.ca. So what we're going to do is briefly take a pause and thank our sponsors, and then we're going to come back and do the rapid fire round.
Perfect.
Ever spotted your dream client on LinkedIn only to find yourself bogged down in tedious data transfer at the expense of building that critical relationship? Say goodbye to manual tasks and hello to efficiency with Surfy, S-U-R-F-E. Surfy transforms you from a virtual assistant into a sales pro by seamlessly capturing, syncing, and enriching contacts from LinkedIn into your preferred sales platform, be it Salesforce, HubSpot, Pipedrive, Copper, or even Google Sheets, all in one single click. Imagine reclaiming those precious hours spent on data entry and redirecting them towards nurturing valuable connections and closing deals, which we all love to do. With Surfy, it's not just a dream, it's your new reality. Ready to invest your sales time where it truly matters? Try Surfy today by visiting our resource page at paulhigginsmentoring.com/resources and clicking on Surfy. Elevate your sales game with Surfy because your success starts after the click. So we're back, and let's go into the rapid fire round where I'm going to ask you 4 questions and get rapid fire responses. So the first thing is, what are some of the daily habits that you do to help in growing Amplify Advisors?
So I'm going to cheat and I'm going to tell you a weekly one. A couple of years ago, I started what I call Surge Monday. And so every Monday, I limit the number of meetings I have, and I work at night. I don't go to events. I skip my kids' baseball and hockey, and I just have a full day of surge and flow to get things done. And it's really changed my life because now if I want to work on the weekend, maybe I do, maybe I don't as a business owner, but I always know I don't have to because I have all day Monday, and it's a 12, 14-hour day. And Mondays are honestly my favorite day because I'm excited to get that work done. I'm excited that I'm going to be caught up, and I don't leave Monday night until I feel like I've set myself up for the week. And so some Mondays I'm leaving at 6:30, some Mondays I'm leaving at 10:30, but I'm prepared. I'm mentally set for that flow and that surge, and it's just been awesome. Friday's easier when you want to shoot off for a happy hour at 2 p.m. and it makes the weekends easier knowing that if I work, it's bonus, and if I don't, it's okay. I've got this backup plan, and I've got all day Monday.
Great. And where do you go to find out more about how you grow Amplify Advisors?
We are really big into forums. So I'm a member of WPO, Women's Presidents Organization, which is an international group. My business partner is a member of EO, Entrepreneurials Organization. We've got business leaders on our executive and on our senior management team that are also part of peer forums. It's a really great resource. It helps validate that you're not crazy with your problems and concerns, because you find out very quickly that everybody's experiencing the same things that are keeping them up at night. So that's awesome. You're a lot less lonely, and you can get other people's opinions and experience shares. So most peer forums are really, really big on not giving advice per se, but instead sharing experiences. And so it's awesome to hear those stories, relate to those stories, and pick out what's going to make sense. And so I think forums have been one of many things that have been instrumental to our growth. And we wouldn't be where we are if my partner wasn't in one and I wasn't. I'm in 2, actually. I'm in a local one as well. So it takes 2 to get me on track.
Yeah, great. And just quickly, if you're looking for one for exclusive for tech consultants, just go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/TC, and you can find out more there. A wish. What's one wish we could grant you?
Well, if I had a wish, I would love for just an answer about that prospecting and marketing. Like, just tell me if it's going to work. And then whether it's good news or bad news, I just am so impatient and wanting to know the answer.
Yeah,
So that's a
brilliant.
short-term wish, but it's a today relevant one.
Great. And the last thing is, what do you know now, given your 5-year journey, that you wish you had known earlier?
Well, I mean, I alluded to it earlier. I think that we put in an ERP much earlier than many clients, but honestly, it was still a year or two too late, And it was instrumental to have access to data to make decisions and to be able to, have the ability to validate your gut. And okay, and a lot of times when you're small, guess what? Your intuition, your gut, and the data, they all are aligned. But then as you get bigger and bigger, your finger can't be on the pulse. And so that need to really have that data, validate your decisions, and or use it to think about the different possibilities is critical. And I think we were lucky to put it in as early as we did, but we did have a shoemaker kid moment where it's like we were so busy serving clients that our implementation took too long and we were running blind for a while. And
Yes.
so had we done it just a year earlier, we wouldn't have had to run blind because we would have been that much less busy and that much less people involved, right? Less change management would have cost us less. And so the same advice I give my clients, I did better than most, but I still could have done it a year earlier for sure.
Brilliant. Well, look, great having you on today, Jamie. There'll be all the links in the show notes, but it's amplifyadvisors.ca. And wonderful having you on, sharing your knowledge, and wish you every success in finding that marketing and sales, that 5%. And maybe I can talk to you after the show a little bit about how others are doing it to help with that.
I love that idea. And thanks for having me, Paul. It's really fun.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
What a great interview with Jamie. And I really love her tips around accountants as partners. She gave some great advice there around doing things outside of referrals, so how she's building that. And the last one is around her 5 values and how customer experience is at the forefront of everything they do, so people first. You can reach out to Jamie on LinkedIn. The link is in the show notes, and ask, or firstly, thank her for sharing her experiences, but also ask her any questions. Also, your peers could benefit from this experience, so please share it with them. And you can watch, again, Jamie on the YouTube channel at Paul Higgins Mentoring. And if you haven't, please subscribe. And I'll see you next time on the Paul Higgins Show. Time for action. Let me know what you implemented from the show. I promise to respond. Plus, get the Tech Consultants Roadmap at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap.